February 9, 2007. Tasman Sea. On January 11, 2007, Australian traveller and adventurer Andrew McAuley set off on a solo voyage across the Tasman Sea. He used a specially equipped kayak that allowed him to overcome any storm conditions. This was not his first voyage. The man was quite well prepared. He equipped himself with a protective suit, took with him the necessary equipment and a supply of food. He had to cover about 1,600 kilometers of sea route, going from the bay of the island of Tasmania to Milford Bay in the southwest of New Zealand. But no one could even imagine that the seemingly carefully planned trip would become fatal both for the brave adventurer and for his relatives and friends. The man was about to set a world record. Now look what came of it. Andrew McAuley was born on August 7, 1968 in the Australian city of Gober. As a child, he and his brother often spent time swimming, climbing trees and diving from cliffs. From an early age, the guy developed courage and a passion for adventure. During a trip to South America in the late 1990s, Andrew McAuley discovered kayaking after being caught in a severe storm while backpacking. Together with his friends, he crossed mountain gorges in kayaks and successfully completed his journey. At that moment, the brave traveler realized the power of this sport and became convinced that he could cope with any weather conditions. In 2003, Andrew McAuley became the first person to cross Bass Strait by kayak non-stop, conquering the treacherous stretch of sea between mainland Australia and the island of Tasmania. His journey stretched over 250 kilometers and took 35 hours. Next time Andrew went on a journey through the Gulf of Carpentaria in northern Australia, covering almost 600 kilometers. This time he spent a week on the road and was already accustomed to spending the night in his kayak. In 2005 Andrew was awarded Adventurer of the Year by the Australian Geographical Society. His routes were full of risks, and sometimes seemed truly adventurous, because anything could happen along the way, including the most terrible circumstances that could lead to death. In 2006, Andrew led the Australian Antarctic expedition, during which kayakers made an 800-kilometer voyage along the coast of Antarctica. Andrew McAuley has become an experienced sea kayaker, completing hundreds of hours of dangerous trips. Therefore, when he announced one of his biggest goals, many believed that he would definitely succeed. This time his goal was to cross the Tasman Sea, a dangerous and huge stretch of water between Australia and New Zealand. Several adventurers had attempted such a journey previously, but they had all failed. McAuley dreamed of becoming the first person in the world to successfully complete this route. In December 2006, he decided to fulfill his dream and set off on a trip across the Tasman Sea, but quickly aborted the mission after spending only one night at sea. However, this bad experience did not stop the brave kayaker. In order to realize his long-time dream, Andrew McAuley turned to the Mirage Sycoyax company, where engineer Paul Whitson designed a special kayak measuring 640 centimeters in length, 62 centimeters in width and weighing 60 kilograms. The main feature of the kayak was the designed and manufactured fiberglass cap, or as it is also called, a capsule, which was named Casper. This capsule, reminiscent of an inverted bucket, was attached to swing arms. During the day the cap was located behind Andrew, and at night it could be folded forward and hermetically fixed above it. The capsule mounted above the Andrew McAuley was designed to keep the sailor dry in all conditions, and if the boat capsized, the hermetically sealed kayak could right itself. Thanks to such a device as the Casper capsule, Andrew was able to sleep peacefully at night and overcome any bad weather, including severe storms.
Move my body forward. Well, it's very tight. I'm down here. I can only fit one arm in. It's so tight, and the other arm just tucks across me like this in Egyptian mummy style. So you're really locked in. Head on the seat for comfort, and then I move the hood over the top and say good nighty night.
When Andrew McAuley was forced to spend the night in his kayak, a built-in fan in the pod provided fresh air and prevented the kayak from flooding if it was caught in a downpour. On January 11, 2007, Andrew McAuley set off on his long-awaited journey. His route began from the shore of Mirage Bay, where his wife Vicky and their little son accompanied him. According to the plan, the journey was supposed to take about a little less than a month, and on February 8 the man planned to reach Milford Fjord on the coast of New Zealand. His kayak, the Mirage, was fully prepared for the trip, equipped with provisions and dry rations stocked for a month. In addition, the kayak was equipped with a satellite phone with an additional battery, an emergency radio beacon and GPS function. After saying goodbye to his family and friends, 38-year-old Andrew McAuley set off on a solo voyage. The trip started off well, and McAuley regularly took several photographs and videos in the kayak for his family and friends. In almost a month of his journey, he crossed most of the Tasman Sea. However, on February 7, his kayak was caught in a storm. From time to time huge waves capsized him into numerous riffles up to 9 meters deep. Despite the dangerous conditions, Andrew managed to overcome the severe storm. On Thursday, February 8, the day after the storm passed, Andrew sent his wife Vicky a message via satellite phone saying they would see each other on Sunday at 9 a.m. That same day, Vicky excitedly wrote on her social media page that their husband would soon return from New Zealand, and there were only 120 kilometers left before the meeting. According to the original plan, by February 8, Andrew was supposed to reach Milford Fjord in New Zealand, where his journey was coming to an end. However, the navigator was behind schedule and told his wife that he would not arrive in Milford until the morning of February 11. This meant that kayak Mirage was still quite far from the New Zealand coast. Meanwhile, Andrew's wife, along with their young son and friends, arrived from Australia in Milford, where they organized a welcome party for Andrew. Tasman Sea. On February 9, 2007 at 19:15 local time, the New Zealand Coast Guard noticed an almost inaudible signal from a vessel that called itself Kayak 1. Unfortunately for Andrew, his message was almost unintelligible and difficult to understand. Many thought it was some kind of joke. The message was received by the New Zealand Maritime Operations Centre, but it was garbled and difficult to understand. Authorities spent a lot of time confirming that Kayak 1 was indeed a signal from Andrew, and they needed to locate it. Rescuers took into account the time that had passed since the last confirmed position sent to Andrew the day before, as well as the weather forecast and the movement of ocean waters and currents. On February 10, a search team combed the area of the sea where McAuley's kayak was believed to be located. 24 hours after the signal, his overturned kayak was found in the air just 62 kilometers from his final destination. The search team found that the boat was partially submerged, but the hull appeared largely intact, except for some minor damage from a recent storm. However, the fiberglass capsule that Andrew had been in during the voyage was missing, and one of the capsule's swing arms was damaged. Rescuers suggested that Casper's cap was torn off by a high wave during a storm. Inside the kayak, a paddle, a satellite phone, a beacon, a radio, a camera with a memory card and other equipment were found, all in good condition. Despite the efforts of the search team, only the traveler's kayak was found, but Andrew was nowhere to be seen. 2 days later, the search for Andrew McAuley was called off. Weather conditions are described as southwest wind at a speed of 12 to 13 meters per second, sea waves with short, sharp jerks. One of the pod's arms was broken during a storm, and when the kayak capsized, the pod filled with water like a bucket. making it difficult to right the kayak any further. Exhausted by trying to level the kayak, Andrew, being in cool 15-degree water, opened the back hatch and took out the radio. Since he was not tied to his boat, he was able to hold on to the hull with one hand and the radio with the other until he was carried away from the boat by the current. Before the adventure began, Andrew notified authorities that his primary method of communication would be daily contact at 5:30 p.m. via SMS on his satellite phone, and he would transmit his location using a GPS beacon. However, authorities who reviewed his voyage plan before departure noted that no provisions had been made for support or rescue en route by a support vessel. Receiving a report from a traveler once a day seemed wrong, since in 24 hours one could sail far and deviate significantly from the route. In addition, the dependence on satellite communications and GPS required battery backup, which was insufficient for such a long trip. It was noted that Andrew did not properly use the GPS beacon to automatically send his location, but turned it on manually every day to save battery power. Andrew needed to have a radio call sign that would easily identify him and reduce confusion about the identity of the signal sender. There was a ship several hours away that could provide immediate assistance, but Andrew did not use the international Mayday call to report urgent assistance. It also turned out that the emergency radio buoy had not been activated. If it were activated, the kayak could be pinpointed and identified within minutes of receiving the signal, and the helicopter could take off immediately and arrive on site in less than an hour. While swimming, the kayak overturned, and the Casper capsule, which was behind Andrew, filled with water like a bucket. He had to climb out of the boat, lift the kayak upright and perform the full self-rescue process. According to Paul Whitson, the kayak's manufacturer, the Andrew likely capsized when the Casper cap was out of place. Then Andrew and the kayak were probably separated. Given the weight of the gear in his kayak and his exhaustion from a month of sailing, Andrew may not have been able to turn the boat back over. Today Andrew McAuley is still missing and presumed dead. Friends, write in the comments what you think about this. If the video was interesting for you, then subscribe to the channel and like it.